The first computer I owned was a Commodore 64. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, even though it cost me an arm and a leg. My kids were thrilled. My wife wasn't very happy, though. She didn't see the need for a computer at that point. I remember my office was in the basement. I had an old table, an old door that I made into a tabletop that I used for a desk. And I remember sitting at that computer and trying to learn a piece of software called Logo. Logo was a tool that was designed by Seymour Papert, who wrote the book Mindstorms, about how teaching kids to program would enlarge their minds and make them understand math and the fundamentals of computer technology. I remember sitting and getting very frustrated because I couldn't get the mouse that was part of the Logo program to go in a certain direction. You had to write a program using DOS. That was the language of the program, of the computer. You had to write a program and make sure that the mouse went in certain directions, over 4, up 3, over 8, and so on, so that you could design something. It was all about learning if then statements, which is the basis of computer programming. If this, then that. If that, then so on. But I used to get so annoyed with myself and so tense because I was deep in thought. I revisited that approach to what I was doing when I started to learn how to design websites or web pages, because you had to make sure everything fit together properly. This was before computer programs that used the philosophy what you see is what you get. And so that made designing web pages easier. But I remember trying to program and learn how to program and make sure all the elements on the web pages were just right. And you had to think uninterrupted. First I do this, then I do that, then I do that, then I do that, and then I go back, and so on. I used to get so frustrated. I've been revisiting those feelings the last few days. I already commented on the fact that I got a new laptop, a Mac, and how I inadvertently deleted a whole bunch of files. And I had to go and look for those files and try to restore them. Well, it turns out they weren't restored perfectly. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's a big difference between the Word on my laptop and Word on the Mac Mini or on a PC. It just doesn't work the same way. It's more advanced, I suppose. And so I started to get very annoyed because I wanted to make changes. I'm editing a book I wrote, and I wanted to make changes. I have gone through the proof of the book that I got and made the corrections in the chapters, and I'm trying to go from page to page. And I did some work on Sunday and I saved it, or at least I thought I saved it. It looked perfect when I hit save. But I think I interrupted the save process, and I read that when you do that, you can cause damage to the file. So yesterday was not a pretty day. I was very upset and I didn't want to talk to anybody or have any interruptions. I figured a workaround, which is fine. I'm in a much better place today, except for something about a November 3rd election somewhere else in the world besides Canada, and how much the rest of the world is waiting to see what the outcome will be. That probably didn't make anything easier yesterday, but still in all, what I'm leading up to is the fact that even when we think we know and are confident about how to use computer technology, you never know when you're going to run into a problem. When you are sitting with your son or your daughter or in front of your students and you're trying to help them acquire some skills, when something goes wrong, it's very difficult not to get upset and take it out on everyone and everything. But what I wanted to speak about today is the fact that the only way to deal with computer technology and the software you run on it and the applications you download to use on your devices, it's called patience. I used to tell my students when they ran into trouble and they couldn't get out of it, the easiest and best thing to do is just to turn the computer down. What most people don't realize is that the computer keeps track of every single action you take on it. It's like it's a log of all the things you've done right or wrong. It doesn't matter because it's a machine, but it keeps track of all of those things. And sometimes you end up in a corner. When I was a consultant for the school board, and we used to go around to schools and try to help them move from local area networks where each school had its own network and it went online to the internet and everything was managed within the school, and we were moving to a wide area network where everybody all the local servers communicated with the board servers. I remember having to try to tell the people I was working with that they needed to remember that the computer is nothing more than a machine. It doesn't place a value on the things you do, either good or bad. It just operates. And sometimes the instructions we give get stuck, and the computer doesn't know which way to turn because of something you've said or something you've tried to do. And I used to tell anybody that I was talking to, sometimes the best thing is just to shut the computer off and reboot. The computer has a memory. It's called cache. And in that cache are all the sites you've gone to and all the operations you've asked the computer to do. And when you shut down, you clear the cache. It's as if you start from scratch. So when you run into a problem, you start from scratch to try and solve it instead of getting stuck in the same rut. No matter whether you're a young or old professional, a young or old parent or grandparent, a teacher, a student, there's bound to be problems when you want to take this thing that I'm sitting in front of and throw it against the wall and say, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I see articles that talk about the fact that parents would prefer in-school classes rather than online classes. And whether we like it or not, sitting in front of a terminal and doing work is going to be part of everyone's future. The same way when we started with computers, we had Commodore 64s, and everybody thought they died and gone to heaven. Now we have super fast computers, we have super fast capabilities, and everybody thinks that everything is going to be smooth sailing, but it's not. You're going to run into problems. And so when you do run into problems, the best thing is to put on the brakes for yourself, take a deep breath, and try to figure it out, because we're smarter than the computer. We are the masters of this technology, and we have to remember that it only responds to what we ask of it to do. So when you run into a problem, just sit back, breathe deeply, and try to figure your way out of it. The more you do that, the easier problem solving becomes, for sure. But to start with, you have to learn what to do to get out of the binds you get into. Because as you become more adept at using the technology, you'll see how many more things you can do. Except, like me, every so often you run into a problem and you want to just give your head a shake and walk away and say, never more. But obviously, since my history with computers, desktops, goes all the way back to Commodore 64, I've done a lot of turning the other cheek. Good luck.